Then I took a smidge and applied it down there.
This one's wife. Cheaper is a sign of strength. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. You may recall from the novel 1984, written by Eric Blair, more commonly known as George Orwell, that war is peace, freedom is slavery, ignorance is strength, and it looks like we're going to have to add another saying to that list. Cheaper is a sign of strength. Because when I heard this one's wife coming out with that nonsense, it immediately thought that it had been issued by the Ministry of Truth from 1984. All of a sudden, I heard Annie Lennox going, crime, sex, crime. I found myself transported to that world and thought to myself, have I entered some kind of parallel universe? No. It's as a consequence of the nonsense that this one's wife is spouting. As reported by Kieran Southern in The Times, the Duchess of Sussex described her Netflix cooking show as a lot of work. Well, it would be to her, given the fact that she describes working for Archwell as 1 hour per week, which she naturally believes is a substantial undertaking. She addressed the terms of her new deal with the streaming giant for the first time in the talk at the Women in Power event. Speaking at this event in Washington, D.C. on Tuesday, this one's wife said the arrangement that allows Netflix first refusal was a sign of strength. My husband and I were in an overall deal with Netflix then, not dissimilar to Higher Ground and the Obama's deal, character trait acquisition. Once that had come to its term, the extension of it, which was such an incredible sign of the strength of our partnership, was now being in a first-look deal, she said at Fortune's Most Powerful Women Summit. Which is also exciting because it gives us flexibility to go to our partners first. Then, at the same time, shop content that might not be the right fit for Netflix, but has a home somewhere else. So, in effect, that the cheaper Netflix deal that she has signed up to is a sign of strength. Yep, straight out of the Ministry of Truth. And this is the delusion of the narcissist. Anybody else would look at it and say, in effect, haven't we all got a first look deal with Netflix? Well, we have, haven't we? Because if you think about it, if you come up with the idea for a program, you could contact Netflix and say, hello, Netflix, I've got an idea, a la Alan Partridge, for monkey tennis. What do you think about that? And they would say, thank you very much for your suggestion. We don't think it's the right time to move forward with it. So you gave them the first look, because as the world's largest streamer, you decided to get in touch with them first. And it's hilarious and indicative of the delusion of this one's wife that she thinks that the deal that she has with Netflix is something special. Because in effect, everybody has that arrangement with Netflix. If you decide you want them to have a look at what you've created first, you can send it to them, and they're not obliged to do anything with it, which is precisely the situation that this one's wife has got. She did have a 5-year deal, which was rumoured to be worth $100 million. However, it's become clear that it was worth far less than that. And in the typical behaviour of the narcissist, she denies the reality that everybody else sees. This is the situation. She had a deal that was worth tens of millions of dollars. Let's say that. Rumoured to be 100 million, but let's call it tens of millions of dollars. That expired. It wasn't renewed. Instead, she got a first look deal instead. By any stretch of the imagination, by any metric, the deal that she has now is not as good as the other one. And yet, she regards that as a sign of strength. How? If you were strong, you'd have got an even better deal than the first one. But oh no, this is the world of This One's Wife, where, just like in 1984, war is peace, freedom is slavery, ignorance is strength. And this is the bullshit that she comes out with. This is typical of the narcissist. I've mentioned before, but it's worth repeating. There was one occasion, many years ago, where I had pinched a very competent person from a competitor. And, wanting to revel in the annoyance of the owner of my competitor, I gave him a call. And I did so under the auspices of just making sure that everything was okay between our two organisations. And I called him, and let's say he's called Jim. And I called and I said, Jim, just want to check that there isn't any bad blood with my recruiting of Angela. Just want to make sure everything's on the level. I knew that he was furious about it. How did I know? Because when Angela tendered her resignation to come and join my organisation, she was removed from dealing with clients, her telephone was removed from her office, she wasn't allowed a computer, and she was basically sat in there twiddling her thumbs all day. He tore a strip off her as well. He was furious about it because she was one of his best employees. And yet, when I asked him, is everything okay, knowing that it isn't, what was his response? Absolutely, HG. Do you know what? It actually comes at a really good time for us. I struggled to contain my laughter. I knew he was a narcissist, and I knew that he was operating in that deluded reality because he didn't want to admit to me that it had caused him a massive fucking problem. And it's the same with This One's Wife. Her narcissism will not allow her to say, well, actually, this deal isn't as good as the other one, but we're going to make the best of it that we can. Instead, it causes her to say, oh, it's a sign of strength. It's not. But this, once again, exhibits her delusion. At the Fortune event, This One's Wife was asked if the series would return for a third instalment. She replied, well, the holiday special is coming out in November. It's a really good one, she said. We weren't asking about the holiday event. And moreover, it's not really a third instalment. She's not had a second series. It was part 2 of series 1 because it was all filmed at the same time. So if there was a third series, she'd have said so because remember when she got part 2 of series 1, she immediately took to Instagram to tell us all about series 2. She couldn't contain her glee. If she got a series 3 lined up, we'd know about it. There isn't one. Netflix are not interested. Rather than admit that, of course, because that's a threat to control, to admit such a failure, she then went on to discuss the difficulties of producing 16 episodes of television, comparing it to her time on the drama Suits. So I think looking at that format, again, it's a year of learns. This woman doesn't even speak fucking English, does she? It's a year of learns. So we're able to say 8 episodes for 2 seasons. It's a lot of work, she added. And having done Suits for 7 years, I remember what goes into a production. Once again, this is a revision of history and an overstating of her involvement, as she had 138 minutes on screen over 7 years, just over 2 hours. She was a bit part in Suits. But of course, she has to portray it like she was a main character. She wasn't. Part of what we're testing out now is it's amazing to sit and watch a show for 30 minutes, but how can I give you a recipe in 2 minutes? Where can I share that with you? And how that continues to grow as ever. What? What is she talking about? You can provide a recipe by talking about it, but that was one thing that you didn't do in your show. You never actually explained what needed to be done, because you never really did any proper cooking, because you're not a cook. You didn't provide people with weights and ingredients, or you could have had them on the screen whilst you were talking through what was going on. You could have had them provided in a link on a website for people to go to. Many other shows do that, but she didn't. Why? Because she doesn't know really what she's doing. The people who appeared on the show, they did the cooking. She just did things like putting things in an oven which wasn't on, and then taking things out of an oven which wasn't on, and putting spaghetti into water. Or did she put the spaghetti in first and add the water afterwards? Who cares? Either way, she didn't do much. But here, as she talks about cheaper is a sign of strength, we are exhibited to the twisted logic of this one's wife. The fact that there is not going to be a third series, or series 2 more accurately, of With Love, Meghan, otherwise she would have told us as such, and that she just flannels on in the course of this discussion, attempting to make herself sound important and brilliant, when all she does is reinforce the fact that she's absolutely fucking useless. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.